Hello, and welcome to the Chronicles of a Dreamworker, a podcast dedicated to exploring and sharing the stories of what happens on the other side when we close our eyes. I'm your host and creator, Katie Thompson. I'm a lifelong intuitive and creative storyteller. I'm a multidisciplinary artist, mother, wife, and survivor. I'm also a dream worker. In this episode, I would like to talk about dream work and interactions with loved ones in the dream realm. Have you ever had a loved one visit you in a dream? If so, you would not be alone. According to a Pew Research Center survey conducted in 2023 that was also shared by Psychology Today, around half of US adults that responded, that's 53%, say they've been visited by a dead family member in a dream or some other form. And quite a bit of those respondents said they've had interactions with dead relatives within the past 12 months. Of those respondents, 34% have felt the presence of a dead relative. 28% have told a dead relative about their life, but only 15% have had a dead family member communicate with them. Now, there are some more interesting details about this survey I'll share with you, and I'll be sure to link to this in the description. But according to the results, women are more likely than men to have these kinds of experiences with dead family members. People who are moderately religious are more likely to have these experiences as well, versus people who are highly religious or not religious at all. The respondents included Americans of all religious backgrounds, so this was quite a wide-ranging poll. Now, there are a lot of stories out there about visitation dreams, which are specifically dreams in which you are visited by a loved one that has passed on, that is coming to you with a message or some sort of intent. However, in my experience, our dream work can also involve helping other people who are still alive. There are quite a few things I've noticed about visits with loved ones in dreams, with both relatives that are still alive and those that have passed. But the biggest thing that I've noticed is that everyone's visits are different. Just as we have our own personalities and relationship dynamics in the waking life, those are also impactful in how and why we communicate with our loved ones in our dreams. There are commonalities. Some people, myself included, can take visits in a specific place or location in our dreams repetitively. Other interactions can be short and almost in passing, but are no less important. Sometimes it's easy to not realize we are visiting with a loved one in a dream because we are so comfortable, and the situation may closely resemble that of a conversation we may have had in the waking life. We may think we are simply reprocessing things that have already happened, only to realize later that that moment or conversation was much more significant than you first thought. I think this also happens especially with people that are still here in the waking world, because we are coming back to this world together every night. As our higher selves have agreed to come to this life and this consciousness for a specific purpose, we may meet up with other souls that we've agreed to work with every night as we travel. This is where the in between becomes important as the bridge between our higher consciousness and the waking. It's a place where we can shift between the waking realm, the dream realm, and higher consciousness. It's sort of a train station or an airport for our souls. We may pass each other on our commutes back and forth, or even agree to travel together. It's also important to remember how a visit with a loved one made you feel upon waking. Did you feel happy or peaceful? Or was your sleep fitful, intense? These feelings can help provide clues, especially when we aren't able to remember everything. And remember, we're not always supposed to remember everything. So rather than share a singular dream narrative this time, I'd like to share a few experiences I've had with visiting loved ones in dreams. Shortly after I began exploring the notion that there may be something more to this universe than I originally thought in my early 20s, I had a very vivid dream of a distant family member. This person was still alive, but in the dream, they had unfortunately passed, and their immediate family was heartbroken and crying at their side. It was disturbing and alarming. I wasn't sure what to make of it because I wasn't particularly close with this person. So I mentioned it to my husband the next morning, thinking that would be the end of it. Later on that day, we received news that that particular family member I dreamt of was, in fact, dealing with a potentially serious health issue. I remember receiving the news, dumbfounded, and just turned to my husband with my jaw open. Fortunately, everything worked out, and it turned out to just be a scare. But it was my first time really noticing that I could pick up on what was happening and other energies with loved ones that were still here. And this has happened more than once. Several times since then, actually. I've had dreams of family members going through medical procedures or of them trying to establish contact with me. Then I'll wake up and have it confirmed that they were indeed going through something. I think that due to the nature of dream work that I do, that sometimes I'm called upon in highly emotional times to help my loved ones through, as well as strangers. It can be easier to detach sometimes when you are working with strangers. So these dreams involving loved ones can always seem more impactful, even upon waking. In other dreams, I've had the blessing to be able to speak with loved ones that have crossed over, or I've been there to help them do so. One particular family member's crossing comes to mind. I don't remember much of the dream at all, only that they were in it, as were other family members that had already passed. It was a celebratory mood, a true homecoming, and I remember waking up feeling so comforted and at peace. Moments later, I received the news that that family member had indeed passed in the night. I was so grateful for that experience and to know that they were at ease. Another visitation dream with a family member that has passed happened to me quite recently, on my birthday, in fact. That's another thing. Loved ones, both that have passed and have not, love to visit at significant times or dates such as birthdays, anniversaries, or holidays. This visit began, again, almost as if it were in passing. I was at a place where I believe my soul and soul family agreed to meet in the in between. I was in the kitchen where I spent a lot of time with this person, and we were preparing things. We were chatting as we did, and then the realization of what was happening hit me in my dream. I became consciously aware that I could talk to this loved one. I held their arm and said, "I'm here. We're here now." The realization of what was happening lit up in their eyes as well, and we embraced, crying. We spoke for a while, asked questions, and caught up. When it was time to go, I remember crying harder, knowing that we were going to go our separate ways again. But at the same time, I remember feeling like I'd been given such a tremendous gift. I was able to tell them I loved them again. I was able to feel them in my arms and give each other some comfort and understanding. It was such a remarkable experience. Later that day, I received an unexpected package in the mail containing an item they'd left for me before they had passed. My last story is one of my soul dogs, Bella. My husband and I got this tiny, yet spunky Brittany Spaniel puppy a few months before our wedding, and she was truly our baby. She was a great big sister when our two human kids came along and another puppy. She was very empathetic and would always come to comfort you when you were crying and would slink away when voices started to get a little tense. Last summer was her 12th, and unfortunately, when we were away for a camping trip, she passed. The night she passed, I remember waking up from a fitful dream. I stepped outside of the tent and saw this static in two forms. There was a smaller form like an animal on the ground next to a taller, more human person shaped form. And they were just energy. I could see through them, but it was constantly moving in blackness with flickers of light, like what you would see on an old TV. For some reason, their presence made me very upset, protective, and angry. I mentally told them to leave, to stay away, because I knew whatever it was taking something with it. The rational part of me thought it might have been the band of raccoons that had been stalking the campsite earlier, but that wouldn't explain the larger figure. The next morning, we received the call that Bella had passed in the night. I instantly felt her presence very strongly. I couldn't even fully feel the grief because, again, her energy, it was still very much with me, even more so than it had been when she was alive. I realized then that whatever had come to get her had shown themselves to me last night to let me know she was going. I felt foolish and stupid for getting angry, but the protective reaction was only natural. A family member of ours was leaving. I later received confirmation through another medium that Bella is indeed with me all the time. And we were able to get some answers on why things happened the way they did. I was also able to apologize for not being there. That really bothered me. But she replied that she had wanted it that way. And that gave me so much relief knowing that she was able to go how she wanted to. So the next time you dream of a loved one and it seems so vivid and real, maybe think a little more about how you feel. Look for clues. What did you talk about? And think of any details that you can remember. I believed our loved ones come to us for many reasons, but ultimately, it's always about the power of love and connection. That concludes this episode of Chronicles of a Dreamworker. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you and hear more about your experiences, so drop me a message at dreamworkerchronicles@gmail.com. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're catching this on YouTube, and be sure to follow along on your favorite podcast platform. Wishing you sweet dreams. Chronicles of a Dreamworker is a Black Swamp production.